Perfection. It's something humanity has sought ever since we began to create. The Mona Lisa, Michelangelo's David, the Starry Night. Their creators all aimed for perfection, but they're all missing something which wouldn't be possible for centuries after their deaths. True perfection is a video game where you kill God dressed as a bee. There's a lot of games that I love and have played more, but there's always something I want to change about them. Skyrim's combat sucks, Minecraft has boring exploration, everyone in New Vegas looks like they're made of plastic, and The Witcher 3 crashes upon launch because I can't afford a good computer. But when it comes to Terraria, there is genuinely nothing that I would change. But that's clearly not a sentiment that the developers share, because they've been consistently updating the game for over a decade. And each update transforms the game into something new, something more fantastic. Relogic always seems to know exactly how much to put into the game and where, and when to show restraint. It's honestly amazing to me how one relatively small game development team has been so consistent in the quality and quantity of their updates, and how dedicated they are to constantly finding new ways to improve Terraria. I remember when 1.3, the final update, came out in 2015, and it added a proper end to the game, as well as several new events and a UI overhaul, and I thought, wow, what a perfect capstone for this game. This couldn't get any better. Then Relogic decided to do a few more updates, just to polish things off, and also add some new events, expand upon wiring, put in more building blocks and decorations, upgrade the graphics, and then finally stop pretending that 1.3 was the final update and announce 1.4, Journey's End, the true end goal of Terraria. This added a kind of creative mode, an extremely difficult master mode, unique world seeds, a boatload of new items, and the coolest boss fight in the game. And now, finally, Terraria is complete. No, wait, we're still going. We're up to 1.4.4 now, and another update is on the way. With so many updates, it would seem like Terraria would be at risk of content bloat. And don't get me wrong, not everything added has been the most useful feature, but incredibly, the game has always kept its same charm and replay value. The core identity of Terraria has always remained consistent. Every update seems to always come back to one vision, one core pillar around which every edition must adhere to, and the entire point of Terraria: fun. Now, that might sound redundant, obviously a video game is supposed to be fun, but hear me out. A good game has a clear purpose. The purpose of Dark Souls is the climb, from Mudslinger to Kingslayer. The purpose of Red Dead Redemption 2 is to deliver Arthur Morgan's story, to become invested in him and care about the people around him. The purpose of New Vegas is to provide a world in which you can roleplay a character making tough decisions with lasting consequences. Terraria isn't so thoughtful, but it is just as valuable. Every aspect of the game is focused on giving you a satisfying challenge to overcome, a sense of adventure, allowing you to bring your creativity to life, and something fun to do. It's pure, energetic, childish fun with nothing more complicated to it. The constant updates don't ruin Terraria's style because Terraria doesn't really have a traditional style. Initially, the game sets out its aesthetic as a basic fantasy, but then it quickly accelerates way off the rails, including items from different genres, time periods, pop culture references, and so on. When I was a child, me and my friends would play a game which we called Everything Mixed Up With Everything. We took everything we liked and thought was cool and put it all together. One person was a soldier, another was a wizard, and another was a Power Ranger. You just mash everything that's fun and cool into one without thinking about the kind of world you're creating. That's the kind of style that Terraria goes for. You can dress as a spooky necromancer and shoot things with your magic staves, or you can be Mario and kill everything with bees. One of the strongest swords in the game shoots Nyan cats. It's a complete mess, and yet it all congeals into some absurd palette, all connected by one through line. Fun. Someone said, hey, wouldn't it be fun if you could be a holy knight and kill things with Excalibur? And someone else said, what if you could fly on a hoverboard? And someone said yes to both. There's always something stimulating and shiny on screen to look at. As you advance, your weapons and armor will emit different kind of lights and particles, so just moving and fighting is always visually engaging. The biomes have distinct color palettes, my favorite being the Hallow, with its blue grass and rainbows above ground and glowing pink monsters and sparkling crystals below. The Moonlord has a sickly green tinge to it and darkens the world, and the Wall of Flesh is a gross mass of congealed, flesh. The combination of all of these conflicting designs somehow creates a cohesive palette where no two things quite match each other, but they all fit into the wild charm of Terraria. Again, it's that appeal to the most basic childish fun, and I don't mean that in a bad way. The visual style is unimpeded by the need for consistent aesthetic or world design or making sure every item fits with the lore. Terraria fills a valuable niche as a game where you can just fuck around and not advance the game at all because there's so much random stuff to do in it. You can go golfing. Why is golf in this game? I have no idea, but it's great. Sorry, Dryad, I can't clear the corruption, I'm about to get a birdie. You can stand in a field and fly a kite. During Halloween and Christmas, you can open goodie bags and presents that give you unique holiday-themed items. And they're not very powerful, but there sure are a lot of silly outfits. But don't let the silliness trick you into thinking that you can't seriously express your creativity. For a 2D game, Terraria lets you build some incredible things. The wide variety of blocks and decorations certainly aids that, but also the smaller things like being able to paint blocks and slope them in whatever direction you want allows you to find so many combinations of shapes and blocks that work together. There's a balance to be found between putting every decoration you have everywhere and living in an empty stone room, but when you find the perfect painting to fill a room, it feels sweet every time you look at it. This is my main world. I've been playing it for over 150 hours and I've put a lot of work into these builds. I'm proud of them. It took a long time to find out which blocks work with which. The walls, for example, in this snowy cabin. I found that the standard boreal wood walls didn't match the aesthetic I wanted, but rich mahogany logs painted brown give a really nice log cabin effect. My castle is made mainly of stone bricks, but with raw stone and slabs mixed in to add some texture. I based my Hallow house off of Japanese architecture using the Dynasty wood set and set in some arcane rune walls for the magical effect. Point is, there's a lot of fun and creative expression here to be had in building, not in spite of the 2D nature of the game, but because of it. Minecraft might offer more depth and dimension, literally, but Terraria offers a different kind of canvas. Building is truly a passion project. You don't need good houses to progress, a wooden box will suffice. But there are so many tools available, so many aesthetics and furniture sets which might just spark fresh inspiration. Just have a scroll through the Terraria design subreddit at some point, and you'll see what I mean. There will always be some new way to build and decorate. But you don't just get building materials from nowhere. You gotta collect them, which means you gotta be able to survive, which means you've gotta get powerful. The path to power is paved with blood, so of course to progress in Terraria, you gotta fight. The combat is where every aspect of this game shines with the most intensity. The progression is most visible here. Combat starts off slow and clunky without much range or mobility. A few slimes pose a threat and require consideration, and walking around at night is a good way to die. But as you get more powerful, more options become available to you. You can run faster, double jump, triple jump, dodge, you can use magic weapons, summons, you get better armor. Swords are best for close range, yo-yos can be directed around blocks, bows are a consistent ranged option that will always be viable, and minions will fight for you if you don't actually want to play. In hard mode, you'll unlock wings and become faster and stronger, and you can plow through the slimes without a second thought. Terraria's combat has a great focus on speed and mobility. The faster you are, the better your odds at survival. It's certainly possible to play slower, tankier builds, but you'll be rewarded the most and feel a hell of a lot cooler when you can reliably dodge attacks. It's one of those combat systems that's easy to learn, difficult to master. No fight will ever be unwinnable with the equipment available to you, but there's a high skill ceiling, and once you've reached it, you'll feel like the master of the world. Boss fights are certainly the most memorable combat encounters in the game, so let's look at those. Learning the attack patterns of each boss takes time, but it is so satisfying to be able to duke around every lunge and missile. Because of how fast both you and the bosses move, every fight will feel frantic, not just because you need to be dodging all the time, but you need to keep up with your enemy, be constantly tracking them and attacking in their direction, while keeping an eye on your remaining health and resources and not straying from your arena. It's not uncommon to be on death's door, frantically ducking and weaving past every attack you can see coming, counting the seconds until you can heal again, and shooting at your enemy all the while. What adds to the tension is that you're not able to fly without limits. You can only jump twice or fly for so long before you need to land again, and the accessories which allow dashing have a short cooldown so you can't spam dodge your way out of a fight. But that's where grappling hooks, a tool usually used for navigating caves, come in. Attaching a grappling hook to something will reset your jumps and flight and let you keep going. Preparation is rewarded. Having a good arena is the most reliable way to give yourself an advantage against bosses. Being able to jump to one layer of platforms, jump again, dash out of the way and attack, then grapple so you can keep moving is a hugely important skill that will save your life if you can pull it off correctly. Of course, there are plenty of other advantages you can give yourself with an arena. Campfires and heart lanterns increase health regeneration, star lanterns do the same for mana, and sunflowers make you faster. You can even station helpful villagers around, like the nurse to heal you or the dryad to give you a defense boost. Take this Moonlord arena as an example. It's got honey and water suspended in bubbles because it's built around using the Duke Fishron mount, which becomes faster after it's been in water. The bosses start out basic, like everything else in the progression of Terraria, and quickly evolve into bizarre and discordant fights. The Eye of Cthulhu and King Slime are fairly straightforward. Their attack patterns consist of moving towards you in a predictable manner and spawning weak enemies, but then you get to the Eater of Worlds. This is one of my personal favourite bosses to fight because it's so satisfying to cleave through it and break it into pieces with piercing weapons. Some bosses become harder depending on how you fight them. Pantera will become enraged if it leaves the underground jungle, becoming faster and stronger, and Duke Fishron is similarly buffed when it leaves the beach. But by far the best powered up fight is easily the Empress of Light. When you fight her during daytime, she turns into an insta-kill bullet hell. Forget all your defenses, because only speed and power matter in this fight. The bosses are all vaguely fantasy or steampunk themed for the most part, but the same cannot be said for the invasions in the game, and it's here where Terraria's unique style of throwing everything cool at a wall and seeing what sticks is most visible. Goblins and pirates are straightforward, but there's also the Martians, the Old One's army which has you defending a crystal, and Halloween and Christmas themed events. Not only can you fight against giant mechanical Santa and finally conquer your morning wood, but you can do it to a kick-ass soundtrack. Unlike bosses, invasions don't end when the player dies, only when the invading forces have been wiped out. Hordes of enemies will attack you, with their main strength being in numbers. Invasions are completely chaotic, unlike boss fights, as enemies will spawn on all sides around you, break down your doors and kill your villagers, follow you into holes and sit at your spawn point. Speed, again, is key to survival, but the weapons you use against bosses won't be as good here. Piercing weapons are best for crowd control, that is, weapons which hit more than one thing at once. Flails, Jester's arrows, and explosive are your friends, rather than the single target weapons you want for bosses. This gives you a good reason to keep your armory varied. Different weapons are necessary for different occasions. So, what do you do when you've slain every boss and built all there is to be built? You've gone from the weakest being in the world to the strongest. What more is to be done? Well, start again. There are so many ways to play Terraria, which might justify my 1400 hours played in it. First, once you've beaten the game on regular difficulty, you've got to try expert mode. The bosses get new phases and attacks, the monsters become harder, you get better loot like a shield that gives you the dash ability in the early game, and a demon heart from the Wall of Flesh that gives you a 6 accessory slot. The world is more powerful, so you've got to be stronger and smarter to keep up. Honestly, I played on normal difficulty for a bit while recording this video, and expert mode is just so much better. It's the default for me for any playthrough now. Then there's master mode, which just cranks the difficulty up to the max. You don't get new rewards like in expert mode, the game just becomes so much harder again. This is a game mode you can play for the sake of challenge, to say that you have done it. It takes so much more preparation and strategizing and skill, and the challenge is well worth it. Or if you want a slower pace, try Journey mode. This is the equivalent to creative mode, giving you a much more relaxed playthrough. In Journey mode, you have access to powers that let you focus entirely on building, with duplication of items, god mode, control over weather and time, and so on. If you just want to focus purely on creativity, this is the game mode for you. But there are so many more ways to play. The most common challenge is to limit yourself to only one class for an entire game, each with its own benefits and drawbacks. Warriors are the tankiest builds but lack range, Rangers offer safety with range attacks but lack versatility, Mages are the most versatile but are frail, and Summoners are the most frail but your minions will do all the fighting for you. Summoner is by far the hardest class, with it having the least common weapons in the early game and lacking reliable damage, so if you want the most challenging class to play, it's this. Or mix it up by limiting not the class you use, but the items you can obtain. The Fisherman's Challenge only allows you to use items obtained through fishing, which is a surprisingly deep ocean of crates and unique rewards from the angler. Doing this, you'll approach the game in a completely different way, as your progression is based around establishing various fishing spots in different biomes rather than exploration. Or limit yourself to only using items bought from NPCs. Armor will be lacking until you can buy it from the Tavern Keep, and accessories even more so, but there are plenty of good weapons to be purchased. Or limit yourself to only using items from one biome, or play on the permadeath hardcore difficulty, or play online, or play with a wild custom seed, or play with mods. There really is no end to how many times you can start a new world and have a completely fresh experience. That's the benefit of everything in Terraria being focused around fun. I can honestly say that in 10 years of owning this game, I've never gotten bored. There are always new updates, new ways to play, new mods to try. Terraria is a masterpiece, and it will always remain a masterpiece. The developers clearly have a passion for the game to keep pumping it full of new content so that it will meet its potential. And it has. When I say I wouldn't change anything about Terraria, I mean it. Okay, well maybe I would improve the tutorials, because this game can be kinda daunting to newcomers, but that's not a major issue. The overall structure and design philosophy of Terraria is so tightly focused on delivering the perfect mad adventure that will match your childhood imagination in terms of pure coolness. Terraria is fun, and it's cool, and it's childish, and it's all of these things on purpose. That's what makes it a masterpiece. So, thank you for watching my first ever video essay, I guess. I've still got a lot to figure out, kind of putting this together as I go. I'm supposed to do the whole YouTube like subscribe thing here, so if you enjoyed, like, subscribe. I'll be doing more of this kind of stuff in the future. I have some thoughts about other games that I'd like to share. Probably make some more Terraria content. I think I'd like to do my next video essay about Hearthstone 4 and like what I don't like about it and what I do. So subscribe, I guess, if you want to stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks for watching.